Well, hello there and welcome to the kitchen of the dollhouse. And what are we cooking up tonight, my friends? Well, another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers for March 27th, the day of the Originator. That's right. And here at the top of the page, we have a visual representational image of the day of the Originator. What could it be? Well, it looks to be a gramophone speaker with an analog clock in the bell there. That's right. Or the horn, rather. I think it's the horn. That said, does that speak to the day of the Originator? I don't know. Some of these images are rather enigmatic, and that's one I would certainly call as much. All right. That said, not altogether all too important. The visual representational image there. A lot of times, it's just something I want folks to see that's on the page there in front of me. So you know the paradigm going on off screen. That said, what is important is it's March 27th, and hence it's somebody's birthday. So if your birthday is March 27th, what's important around here? Wishing you a happy birthday. So happy birthday. That said, you might find this video late, and if that's the case, I just want to say I hope you had a happy birthday in that circumstance. But for everybody else joining us randomly, or more ideally here to celebrate, hey, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to take a few minutes to do around these here parts, and that is roll some dice. That's right. This is the Diecast or birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake. But if you've been here before and you know the score, as I've been saying here recently, hey, just skip ahead in the chapters and dive right into the redirect. I'll be here rolling dice because I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And oh, here, folks, I rolled us some doubles. Hasn't happened here in a few days. Boom, the old snake eyes. This one's a rare one. That said, straight to jail. And now that you're here in jail and you got a few minutes there, let's see what synchronicity is. Let's see if I can nutshell it for you, all right? Oftentimes, as I hear it told, the universe will put things in our path to help us realize our goals, manifest our aspirations. But oftentimes we got the blinders on to what's going on around us. So this is a little bit of a experiment or an exercise, if you like, to try and get the universe to show us it's with us on our path. All right, but we need a kind of a mutually agreed upon sign so that we can identify the things it's putting in our path for us specifically. So essentially, you're letting the universe take the wheel and drive and take you where it wants you to go. And so what's this sign that's mutually agreed upon between us and the universe? Well, that's right, your daily numbers. Now, you don't have to go with what I rolled for you. It's probably advisable, however, if you want to get out of jail, that is, to take your own set of dice, all right? Get your own number if you like. Though I would laugh if you rolled the snake eyes there. So that said, once you've got that established for yourself, you want to grab these so that you can ascribe directional values to number sets, as well as time limits to go in directions that the dice tell you to go in. That's right. So once you've established all that, like I said, I got ahead of myself there. Hey, pick out a place near and dear to your heart. I often pick the town square or main street. All right, so let's go with that. And once you do that, like I said, get those blinders off, all right? Because you want to see everything that's coming into your purview there. To say the day might start to take on a little bit of a theme outside of your numbers popping up, all right? Let's take the representational image there, as enigmatic as it was. The old gramophone horn there, if you like, analog clocks. Hey, you never know. Maybe you start to see a lot of these things, maybe even crossing your path. Some person might be carrying a big old analog clock part right across it. You never know. Kind of crazy. Or a gramophone, all right? That said, doesn't have to be a literal object there. It could be something in a store window, an advertisement on a mirror, on a bus bench, maybe a mural on the side of a building, sticker on the side of a transformer box. Those slap taggers make some pretty random stuff. It could be just about anything, but that's why you gotta stay eagle-eyed out there, because you never know what it could be, all right? So start taking everything in like a sponge, getting out there, rolling your dice, your directional value. Hey, maybe at the first, leg of this journey, you're not seeing much of anything, right? It's just the everyday goings-on. Well, never fret, just take it in stride. Universe is out there putting things together for you. It might take a little bit of time, but step back, maybe look around, maybe you notice something small, like you're on old 11th Street or 2nd Street, perhaps. I would say that's a sign you're on the right path, all right? So just keep letting the universe drive. Roll yourself another directional value, time limit, and then set off where it deems that you should go, all right? Maybe at the end of this particular time value, hey, you find yourself in front of a shop with, that's right, the 11 in the address, perhaps, all right? Hey, you go on in, what is this? And maybe it's an antique shop, and you know what you see? That's right. Some analog clocks and some gramophones, all right, naturally. And I know you're probably not in the market for as much. You got your own record player at home, probably, right? But that said, maybe the person behind the desk asks you what they can help you with. Hey, you know what? Just be open and honest about what you're doing. All right, show them your dice. Maybe show them this video. Tell them it's your birthday and you're here to shake things up, let the universe take the wheel. Hey, they're apt to tell you that's pretty crazy. I'm sure you're apt to agree, but hey, lay it on my shoulders. I'm the one that's kind of nuts, all right? Putting this out there into the universe for you. That said, maybe they say, yeah, that's crazy too, but it's crazy for another reason. And you say, well, what reason might that be? And they might say, it's my birthday too. That's right. Maybe so. Probably not. But you know what? If that did happen, just another synchronicity out there lining up for you. All right. So I think you're starting to see where these things are coming into play there. And you know what? Maybe that person decides, hey, it's my birthday. I want to have my hair blown back also. So let's just see where this goes. Maybe they're apt to join you on the journey. Maybe they close up shop because, you know, they don't sell analog clocks or gramophones all too often. And then you guys set out, you just made a new friend ostensibly. And what's even better is I hear it told, when more people get together focused on the same results, you know, you're apt to beget greater results. So you might just stack up even more coincidences, all right? I think you get the idea. So get on out there, stack up some coincidences, some synchronicities. I think they're interchangeable there. Let the universe blow your hair back, all right? So let's get on with the read. That's why you're here. All right, your month is March, in case you didn't know. Your day, the 27th. Your sign is 5 to 7 degrees Aries, of the Aries I period specifically. And your quality and element is Cardinal fire. All right, March 27th, the day of the Originator. March 27, people are strongly individualistic. Like children, they are quick to learn, but once having learned, pursue their own vision. And in doing so, they acquire an unmistakable style and an often overpowering technique built on what they have developed with others during their formative years. Exceptional people born on this day are originators, often the first to accomplish something in their field. But even those with more modest talents tend to make a contribution that is uniquely their own. And despite their openness to new experience, March 27 people are very realistic and hard to fool. Indeed, some born on this day can become quite hardened emotionally as a result of the years of struggle they go through to succeed. Generally, they are not overly affectionate or sentimental, nor are they particularly understanding of the problems of others. Actually, they are not people at all. It is their work, often of a technical nature, which totally absorbs them. And those born on this day can have a strong scientific bent, or perhaps be found fiddling with things around the house, repairing them, or even taking them apart just to see how they work and then trying to put them back together again. And sometimes these highly technical abilities and interests can serve as a shell or a barrier to emotional expression. And those with this problem can become emotionally blocked or break out of this straitjacket explosively and jar those around them. And March 27 people have an excellent feeling for social trends. And as artists, business people, and laborers, they are able to sense what will work with the public and what will not. And this is due less to any special knowledge of human psychology than a purely intuitive understanding of society, its values, and its wishes. And those born on this day relate surprisingly well to groups of people, perhaps better than individuals. Often they are baffled by human emotions, but because of their objectivity, can be helpful in diagnosing problems. And although not outwardly emotional, they can arouse emotion, or I skipped ahead. Okay, let's start over. Although not outwardly emotional, March 27 people are passionate, and it is this intensity which makes their work strong. And they can arouse emotion in others through the directness of their approach. And what appeals to them is the purity of the line and the strength of strong contrasts. And like children, it is the black or white of a situation that will dictate their reactions. They hate compromise and gray areas, or hiding the truth, it says in parentheticals, which is foreign to them. Their honesty extends to themselves as well. They are therefore realistic in asserting their own abilities. And those born on this day may be difficult to live with, as they are often preoccupied with areas apart from personal human feelings. Also, since March 27 people are not easy on themselves, they are not so easy on their family and companions either. And although they make good friends, they are not ego builders and are much too uncompromising there and frank to have the time for flattery. Nonetheless, those born on this day do impart a certain quiet support and a warmth to those closest to them. Well, all right. Pretty interesting birthday breakdown today. I gotta say, a lot of contrasts, a lot of pushing and pulling. Pretty interesting. I don't know that I've seen as much before in the book in that respect. So a lot of juxtapositions there, different dichotomies and dynamics. I don't know, just very interesting in that respect. That said, I like to provide a little bit of a commentary, dive into the things I found interesting, kind of rehash everything, also try to make connections with days previous there, or the period at large, and also themes in the book that kind of run as through lines. See how they might be kind of incorporated into the breakdown. So let's dive into it, shall we? March 27th, the day of the Originator. All right, you're said to be strongly individualistic, and you're quick to learn and then blaze your own unique life path, all right, in forms and in fashions that elevate or evolve past what you've been taught, all right? Or the equivalent of, say, the jazz player finally deviating from their mentor's instruction and letting their heart project their own idealized mastery, all right? Talents said, surprisingly, to even be employed by those less than exceptional individuals that are born on this day, which, let me tell you, that may be a first that this has come up. Usually these, what they call lesser evolved individuals in the book, as they're otherwise referred here, they're struggling down in the doldrums, while their higher evolved counterparts are just, riding life's high and, meeting the truer realization of the day's theme. But here it sounds like those lesser evolved, they've got the talents too. So that's a total deviation from any other day I've come across in the book where that kind of, a dichotomy is even brought up there. So in any event, all told, such things probably don't come easy, all right? It's if the readings claim you may be emotionally hardened because of the struggles in life that come with trying to pound out that mastery and refine that technical talent, all right? That said, you can be less than affectionate, sympathetic, or empathetic individuals also due to the struggles that that you're going to endure, I would argue. And but it's interesting that the book mentions this if it was ultimately just a prelude to conveying that you become all consumed by your endeavors, all right? You may not be the people, they said, all right? To which, despite this being the first time I can recall coming upon the book relating this proclivity specifically, not being people, they've definitely come across and said people weren't as much. But for you, they mentioned it directly. So that's kind of interesting there. But it's not altogether uncommon trait found amidst other people born in this past week also, interestingly. There were a few, however, who were pretty open to other people, surprisingly. So it's kind of a push-pull again, if you like, all right? Albeit you may be a bit more specially realized in that respect. You might be a little bit more the extreme, if you like. And there may be a reason for that we'll get to here in a little bit. That said, isolationism and individualism are a big through line for this particular period here. It's also just this week, it's been coming up day after day. So there's an argument to be had that it's a bit of a internalized isolation here for you based on not just what they wrote in the breakdown, but also yesterday. Those folks had a little bit of a outward shell and such, if you like, there. But for you, your abilities acting as a shell themselves, and then breaking from said straitjacket, like they said, being something that can jar others. That's particularly interesting, and I would say kind of anomalous just to you. So kind of a surprising turn in that respect, because it sounds like it's pretty extreme in your case. However, you're also said to relate to groups or gatherings of people better than individuals, perhaps thanks to your intuitive feel for social trends, like they mentioned, also for your eye on society, and your purported objective eye for troubleshooting, all right? But I still found it fascinating that such introspection gets hung up with the prospect of human emotion, all right? Though it makes a certain kind of sense considering emotions are the obverse of objectivity. So it's just kind of an interesting dynamic to throw it into, at least as they were getting on with the read in my consideration there. But with qualities of frank honesty, warmth for friends, making difficult companions, however, interestingly, and then this direct approach and a sense of integrity, you're still in good company with the past few days, I would say. They had a lot of black versus white qualities that some people would probably say, oh, it's not a very great look, right? But then these other ones, it's a great quality to have. So again, there was just this push-pull, very interesting. I would say you're just a very honest, frank individual, and that kind of rubs some folks the wrong way. And again, that follows through with this period. A lot of individuals have that particular strength as well, or maybe some would see it as a weakness. Who's to say? I can see the gray area that you may not like to look at. All right. That said, that's been what I'd say about the breakdown. Let's move on to your daily, or no, your your numbers and your planets there. I don't know where the word daily came up there, but your numbers and your planets. All right, here we go. Those born on the 27th of the month are ruled by the number 9, as 2 plus 7 equals 9, and by the planet Mars. All right, the number 9 is a master number, powerful in its effects on other numbers, as any number added to 9 yields that same number. All right. Is that right? Any number added to 9 yields us. So e.g., 5 plus 9 equals 14, and 1 plus 4 equals 5. There we go. I had it mixed up in my mind there. Moving on. And any number multiplied by 9 yields a 9. To say 9 times 5, 45. 4 plus 5 equals 9. Thus, those ruled by the number 9 often lead others and set styles and trends. They can also be impulsive and overly strong-willed, stylized by Martian energy, it says here in parentheticals. And since March 27 people already have some of these characteristics, Mars also rules Aries, it says in parentheticals, they should be aware of their effect on others. All right, as mumble-mouthed as I got with everything here, essentially you've got a Mars-Mars co-rulership going on for both your sun sign and your zodiac sign, your day and your month there. So you get this dual power there of the god of war-like energy. All right. Now this was a particularly personalized numbers and planets, as it turns out. Now the number stuff that typically comes up with the number 9 day to kind of say that you're an influential individual, but everything else was individualized. That said, interestingly, even though they personalized it, it didn't really say a whole lot, I didn't think. So let's see if I can provide a little bit more context for you in that respect here. All right, the number 9 and the planet Mars for dual Mars rulership dynamic with its god of war-like energy and a power that the book claims allows you to lead others and is associated with the master number 9. It's never been mentioned like that before as far as I can recall. It's also unusual. It's usually written to relate an ability to serve as an influence for others, not as this capacity to lead others. So there's some differences in the words they've been using. So again, like I said, they're kind of deviating from the boilerplate. And that might be because of that co-rulership, that dual Mars power there, I would say. It's got that extra little bit of aggression into it, so they got to change it a little bit. but which, while probably still applicable to some extent, maybe change to leadership facet due in no small part, like I said, to the duals Mars aspect. Got ahead of myself with the ad lib, which I don't think I've encountered yet, like I also said. But once again, with your eye to social trends, you may also be apt to set them as well. And this didn't come up in the breakdown, but I would say it seems like a natural progression to assume as much. So I'm glad that they put that in there. But this Mars energy definitely shines through with this mention of an overly strong will, or as a drive, as they like to refer to it elsewhere in the book. But with impulse also mentioned, it's probably advisable to lean in with more of your instincts, I would say. To say emotionally driven versus survival kind of instincts, respectively. And this was an examination that arose on March 22nd as well. Impulse versus instinct, all right? And we know that you don't like the emotions there. You're more objective. So, yeah, you got to drill down on the instincts, not the impulses. But what else do we have here? Affecting others this period also, in no small part, is that particular dynamic, interestingly. So maybe give that some consideration. Be objective about it. Maybe you see where, oh, I was impulsive there. I could have reacted more with my survivalist instincts there instead. And so Mars was also the reason that I brought up that whatever particular facet may be responsible for occurring in the breakdown, I already forgot what it was, but that might be the reason with its god of war like aggression, all right? And the fact that it's heightened because it's got that dual Mars impact there. So in any event, for having forgotten that notwithstanding, hopefully you took some additional value from what I had to provide there for you in the notes there. Just they didn't really say a whole heck of a lot in the entry there, for whatever particular reason. Though I think they imparted just about everything they could outside of the fact that essentially another planet, or if the same planet is in co-rulership there, it just bolsters the effects of the other thing. So what else can you really say? So I don't want to poo-poo the effort they put into it, because, you know, they got to save space in the book as well. So in any event, that's been your numbers and your planets. Let's move on to your tarot. That's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, it's here in the book. We can see what it has to say and then see maybe if it lines up with the breakdown, which oftentimes it does. And then we just leave it here in the book and move on, all right? We don't have to take the cards home with us and start dealing them out, predict our future and all that. So let's get into it here. The ninth card of the major arcana is the Hermit, who walks carrying a lantern and a stick, and he represents meditation, isolation, and silence. And the card signifies crystallized wisdom and ultimate discipline. And the Hermit is a taskmaster who uses conscience to keep others on their path. The positive side of this card is stick-to-itiveness, purpose, profundity, and concentration. But the negative meanings include dogmatism, intolerance, mistrust, and discouragement. All right. This one here was total copy-paste job, all right? Sometimes they'll button it with a little something, maybe to say it serves as an example for this individual to live up to, or something else like that. But other than that, they just gave you the stock reply there, if you like, of the card. That said, let's see what I had to say about your tarot here. All right. The Hermit, representing meditation, quietude, isolation, which we saw, as well as silence, and symbolizing crystallized wisdom, all right, and ultimate discipline. Sound like anybody we know? I think it does there, all right? And I'd say this here is another keystone representational card, and we've had a couple of them the past few days, interestingly. It just almost seems like it informs the breakdown in no small part, all right? Overwhelmingly so, almost. Like I said, third in so many days here. Keystone card. Positives of purpose, profundity, or great intellectual insight, if you haven't defined that out before. I know I had to at several different moments there. But also stick-to-itiveness, concentration, essentially everything necessary with becoming a master, I would argue. So cultivate your talents and endure through the struggle, as it says that you tend to do in the breakdown. But with negatives of dogmatism and what do we have here? You're basically giving your ideas over to people, kind of in an arrogant way, as if they're the be-all, end-all. Also intolerance, mistrust, and discouragement. Essentially everything that comes with hardening yourself to endure the struggle. All right, so you got to avoid those things like the plague, because they're a bad look and they just further endorse the qualities that kind of set you apart from everybody else. All right, and kind of the negative aspects of that isolation, I would argue. All right, and so try as you might, you probably want to try to ingratiate yourself with at least the groups that you're good with. Maybe not the individuals, but yeah, you don't want to distance yourselves from the groups. You need a little bit of that human contact to stay current with the social trends and all that, I would argue, at the very least. All right, that said, that's kind of what I had to say about the tarot. Hopefully we imparted a little bit more extra, dynamic of value to it for you. Look at it in a different way, see how it applies before we move on to your health. All right, let's get into your health here. People born on March 27 tend to be accident prone. They should watch out for car accidents, which has come up previously, surprisingly, or any situations where a momentary lapse of attention can bring catastrophe. And those born on this day may catch colds or develop chronic diseases of the bones, joints, or teeth through neglect. They are impulsive enough to run out into the rain without a coat, or to work on the car in the freezing cold. And through years of ignoring an unfavorable environment, they may develop chronic diseases. And through a few minutes or hours of inattention to health risks, they may suffer acute ones. Often the very equipment they work with, to say machines, cars, and chemicals, will be precisely the cause of their physical problems. And those March 27 people who do not cook may need to be dragged to the table at meal times. And not that they don't enjoy food, they may simply forget to eat. So involved are they in what they are doing. All right, you know what? Highly personalized health entry today. They abandon almost all of the boilerplate, all right, to focus on these very specific dynamics to you. So I would say they're important to acknowledge or keep in your mind there. All right, probably burning everything down again. Let's get into it here. You're said to have a tendency for accidents and illness due to neglect, all right? Ostensibly that focused on your goals, all right? You forego care of the machine, if you like, all right? Highly unique entry, so maybe take note. Maybe scratch out the maybe in there. Take note if it seems to apply. Mind your environment too, it sounds like, all right? And there may be some historical precedents for this. Who's to say? We're going to have to keep our weather eye on the those born on this day section. Keep it in mind, see if this applies to anybody. Though if I remember going through it, I didn't recognize many of the names, so that might be a hard ask. In any event, moving on, you may also neglect eating, let alone a decent diet, as dogged in your pursuits as you are, all right? No mention of exercise, but Mars days usually get vigorous exercise to drive after. You're a dual rulership there. A lot of times they get combative sport recommendations too, ostensibly to excise their god of war like aggression and tendencies, all right? That said, they left it out completely, and perhaps because you may be apt to hurt yourself, all right? So maybe they didn't want to mention as much because you'd be apt to break those bones and those teeth, ostensibly on people's faces, or their fists on your face, who's to say? But that's all to say, don't overdo it if you get into it, all right? So also mind that your job isn't the cause of all these issues, all right? Your environment, feel like. Very interesting. A lot of times too, they'll dive into a very specific diet for individuals. That's not even here today. Just make sure you eat is what they had to say, all right? Because you're so focused on everything. It'd be interesting if this applied to you. Find out that much. So in any event, that's been your health. Let's move on to some advice. Here we go. Cultivate diplomacy and learn to be more tolerant, all right? Forget technique once in a while and let it all hang out, all right? Be kind and understanding. Learn to compromise when absolutely necessary. And you are not as strong and indestructible as you think. All right. Pretty interesting now. All right. What did I have to say about what they had to say? A lot of times the the advice is just a rehash of everything that they found important. You know, sometimes we got to hear things 37, 39 different times before we finally caught into it, or we just have to hear it presented in a different way before we're like, now I get it. So maybe that's what they're doing here for you. So let's see what I had to say. Bear with me. I got notes all over the book here, so it might get even more mumble-mouthed. I'll try to endure through, just like the struggle that you're said to have to endure for your mastery. Let's get into it here. Cultivate diplomacy and tolerance, they said. All right. I said it's not necessary to understand how everything works, just that it works. All right. And I said here, hey, that could be the same with people. All right. And there's also too much emotionally charged debate these days, I would argue. All right. So it may not be worth it to try and convey, or it may be worth it rather to try and convey that you just don't see eye to eye with people. And you could be diplomatic just in that respect. And then move past those issues and then try to recognize something that you both agree on, all right? And then formulate from there. I just see people getting caught up in too much debate these days, and then the emotions come to the fore. And we know who doesn't like emotions. That's right. So try to find some kind of tolerance level with people in another respect. There's that diplomacy. I think that's kind of what they're getting at, all right? Though they didn't bring up any of the politics and that kind of thing, or even debate. That's just kind of what I figured as much for. That said, what else do I have to say here? Don't see things the same way without trying to correct it or put it down, and the notion, and just let it be and find value in other qualities, like I said. Forget technique, let it all hang out, they said, all right? Perhaps it's just a reminder, okay? Though I thought you masters did this already. That's what I wrote here. They forget the technique and they just let it flow, like the jazz master. We have be kind and understanding, diplomacy and tolerance again in no small part, but worth reiteration, I would say. Learn to compromise when necessary. Diplomacy again to some extent, but it's good for you to work that muscle on occasion, I would say. So that you know what you can do and not explode out of the straitjacket, like they said, all right? You're also not as strong and indestructible as you may think, okay? Age will certainly take care of that real quick for you if you don't know, all right? As stiff as my hips get in the morning, I got to work them out for like 10, 20 minutes just so I don't have the pain, all right? That's going to let you know real quick where your limitations are, all right? So don't let it sink in there, all right? Don't let it get the better of you, okay? Be kind to yourself, too, it sounds like, all right? You're no good to your purpose if you're in a compromised state or position. It's kind of that balance that they often mention being cultivated here in the book is a through-line theme. And I would argue, like, you can't be any good to your trade if you're not in a good position as well. So be in a good welfare, be in a good physical condition, and then get out there and play your jazz, right? You know, you can't play your upright bass if your hand falls off because of the gangrenous fingers falling off because you were out there in the cold without a jacket or gloves, right? I would argue that to be the case. So in any event, that's your advice. You know, a little redundant on this one today, but it happens sometimes. And I would say, once again, just like the health, because those were important facets. All right. That said, that's been your advice. That's been your advice, rather. Let's move on to your meditation. All right. I know we've had a lot of things to think about, but here's something else to ponder, if you like. All right, here we go. Your meditation. The secret to concentration is the acceptance of endless distractions. All right, interesting. I haven't had a means to think about a lot of the meditations this particular period. They just come up as a koan, if you like, but here I think I do have an interpretation of this one. One more time. The secret to concentration is the acceptance of endless distractions. All right. That said, mention of an interpretation for you. Hey, it's your meditation, your birthday. Even though I have some way of thinking about it, I'm not going to relay it to you, all right? That wouldn't do you any good. It would defeat the purpose of a meditation. So that's just for you, all right? That said, you have meditation in a can. Let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's see where you got the girth and where you're otherwise a little more atrophied, all right? Your strengths. You're self-reliant, you're realistic, and you're technically proficient. All right, hey, we saw all those in the bargain, didn't we? That's right. But your weaknesses, what do we see here for the weaknesses? All right, you're forgetful. Interesting. I don't know that I picked up on that one. You're also self-neglectful. We heard that one. We heard that one. But you're also difficult to live with. Oh, that's a bad look. All right. We heard that one too. We heard that one too. Now, oftentimes I like to make a case that our strengths are going to help us overcome our weaknesses if they're even something that need improved upon, all right? But I also like to make the case that our weaknesses can be strengths in and of themselves. So let's see if I can make my case today. And I'll tell you what, the weaknesses had me stumped, all right? So I had to kind of do some research, figure things out here, try to cook something up for you outside of off the cuff because it wasn't going to work. That said, your strengths, your self-reliance, how's it going to help you with your weaknesses? Hey, you know what? Just like everything else, you're going to dig into your bag of tricks and you're going to get busy. You don't need someone else's help to get after these things. That's why it's a strength, all right? You've been self-reliant for so long. You mastered your things. Hey, you know what? Let's master ourselves, okay? So to speak, all right? Now, you're also realistic. Hey, you know what? This is a Mars day. If you had some Neptune in there, you might have your head up in the clouds a little bit, a little more fanciful kinds of ideas. No, you're more down to earth. You are straight to the point. You're honest about things, maybe in an aggressive fashion too, it sounds like in no small part, all right? That's huge, all right? You're not going to let the fantasy get into the mix there. You're going to approach improving your weaknesses with a frank, kind of curt approach, all right? No monkey business, if you like, all right? You're also technically proficient. Hey, you're going to get in there and you're going to finger that bass all the way down to the neck, all right? All the way down to the bridge, if you like, or anyway, you get the idea, all right? Technically proficient. You're probably going to be very apt and acute at what you're doing as well. You're going to be clinical or surgical in improving upon your weaknesses, I would say. All right, but your weaknesses. What is the case to be made for forgetful, of all things, being a strength? Well, as I was looking it up, I think the one thing I came up with myself was, hey, you know what? At least you're never going to remember how movies end. So you can watch these movies and always be surprised, all right? When the monster jumps out the straitjacket at the end, you're going to be like, I forgot all about that. So, you know what? Movies are going to be endlessly entertaining. That's what I came up with. Not necessarily a strength, but it helps you if you are in the market for a little bit of escapism, which you may not be if you're so consumed with your endeavors. So, hey, that might not do you a whole heck of a lot of good. That said, also remembering every detail can be paralyzing. And if you're forgetful of those things, able to move on, huge strength, all right? What else did I write down here? Creativity will fill the gaps, all right? If you're forgetful of certain details, you're going to fill in the gaps with creative ideas, all right? And that might just beget even different or more greater results, all right? Something that's even more interesting than the original idea or issue even was. So being forgetful can be a strength in those regards. Self-neglectful, however, how is that a strength? Well, what did I write here? All right. Hey, the job is gonna come first. All right. And if you're at a place of employment, they're gonna think that's huge. That's a strength. Highly employable, I would say. You know, they call up your references. They're probably not gonna want to refer you because they didn't like losing you. All right. So maybe it's a weakness in that respect, but it's a strength because you're going to put the job before yourself. But I can see why it's a weakness because you need to be in tip-top shape in order to perform, I would say. All right. Also, as I was reading on the internet, they said self-neglectful people, research showed that they tend to be compassionate, empathetic, and sympathetic to other individuals. Surprisingly, in the breakdown, it said you weren't so much so. So that was pretty interesting that in the deep dive I did, it didn't line up at all. So who's to say? But like I said, at least there's one thing. You're going to be able to get after the things that you're pursuing with just a dogged focus, all right? So damn the torpedoes, even if it's your own self-welfare, all right? So it is a strength. It's just kind of an unfortunate reality then. That said, difficult to live with. How is that a strength? All right, the one that I came up with without even having to read anything was to say, and it's kind of unsavory, but that's how I come up with these sometimes. If you want to get somebody out of your life, you're going to be able to do it by just being you. All right, I know it's not a great look, but hey, you know what? If you're done trying to deal with someone that you kind of want out of your life, just be difficult to live with, all right? And you put it in first gear. You know how to low torque it, all right? In manual transmission terms, all right? Just let the wheels spin, all right? That's not a good look, like I said, but it is a strength in those particular situations. Also difficult to live with. you're authentic, okay? And you know what? It's gonna be weird for some people to live with. They just can't get their head wrapped around how somebody's so upfront, honest, open about how they like things, where they want them, and no diplomacy in the bargain. Hey, it's difficult to live with, but at the very root of it, hey, at least we know you're being honest and you're not lying about things. You're being who you are, and that's difficult sometimes because you're not being diplomatic. All right. So is it a strength? Hey, in certain respects, they know that what they're getting is the true you. All right, they just got to look past how it's difficult to live with. All right, what else right here? Encounter more problems. You're apt to encounter a bunch more problems if you're difficult to live with. And with those specific problems comes experience. And with experience, that crystallized wisdom that they talked about in the tarot. All right. Not everybody's going to experience probably the things that you experience if they're diplomatic in their lives. They go along to get along. Not you. All right. You create the turmoil. Now you got to experience what that's like. The struggle, if you want. All right. And you know what? Some people aren't going to understand, but it's a strength because there's that much more life experience loaded into it, all right? The stories you could tell, I would say. Hey, and that's good party banter, is it not? That's a strength, all right? Cultivate that diplomacy in those larger groups that you said to get along with, all right? We just keep cooking up here, don't we? Because we're in the kitchen today, all right? That said, those have been your strengths and your weaknesses. I've been rattling on. I think you get the idea. So use your strengths to overcome your weaknesses if there's something that you improved upon in the first place. That said, I also like to say don't get rid of your weaknesses altogether, even if they don't look too desirable, because they're part of who you are, all right? You wouldn't want to not be authentic. Maybe just put in a little bit more diplomacy, salt to taste, all right? That said, strengths and weaknesses in the can. Let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, something I like to do is look at it from the perspective of figuring out all passions, not just seeing who shares your company, all right? Though that's fun too, to see what lottery you drew. But that said, a lot of times I get out in the world and meet folks, ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it, and they don't, all right? And it doesn't sound like you have that problem. A lot of the people in the period don't have that problem either, if we go by what the book has to say. But for those of you that may, you know what? I think this is the perfect opportunity to try to start thinking about carving out the time to put in the energy to figure those things out, all right? Because if there's anything I can wish for someone on their birthday, it's that they're figuring out their passion so that they have something to be doing backflips out of bed in the morning to get into, all right? Because life should be fulfilling, I would argue, all right? That thing that you strive after and lose those gangrenous limbs over should be worth it, all right? So let's look at it from that perspective and see if we can't drum up some inspiration. That said, if you have all that figured out, you have your passion, well then, the hat that I'm not wearing's off to you. Let's just see who shares your company. Let's get into it here. And I'm going to mispronounce some names, believe you me. So let's watch me struggle here. Here we go. Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, German-American architect and designer. We also have Edward Steichen, a photographer, or photographer rather, that way I say photographer. Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen, a German Nobel Prize-winning physicist and an X-ray discoverer. We also have Sir James Alfred Ewing, a Scottish physicist of magnetism. We also have Romulus, who is Rome's founder. Sarah Vaughan, the jazz singer. And remember, we were going to keep our eye out for someone who may have been undone by their job. Let's see if we can figure that out here. Sir Henry Royce, a British engineer, designer, co-founder of the Rolls-Royce Motor Company. Oh, who knew? Who knew, right? We also have Ben Webster, jazz tenor saxophonist, probably pretty astute with his saxophone there, if the book holds true. We also have Mstislav Rostropovich, with a little bit of spittle on top of that one there, Russian-American cellist, conductor, and a pianist. We also have Arthur Mitchell, a dancer and a choreographer, Gloria Swanson, a film actress, Jules Olitsky, a Russian-American abstract expressionist and a color field painter. We also have Michael York, the British film actor, Cale Yarborough, a car racer, 3-time NASCAR champion, and 4-time Daytona 500 winner. I mispronounced Daytona of all those words. How about that? We also have Randall Cunningham, a Philadelphia Eagles football quarterback. Miller Huggins, a New York Yankees baseball manager for 11 years, and he coached the team to 3 World Series victories and 6 AL pennants. We also have Michel Guerriard, a French chef and a nouvelle cuisine innovator. We also have Alfred de Vigny, 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 however that's pronounced, a French romantic writer. We also have Nellie Wilson Parsons, a writer and described Canadian homesteader's life. And Cyrus Vance, a Secretary of State and a peace mediator. So diplomacy is possible of all the people of the year. How about that? So keep your weather eye on the horizon there if you like. That said, we didn't really see anybody ostensibly that may have been undone by their job. Sometimes it lists that, all right? Interestingly enough. So maybe there wasn't historical precedence for the mention there. That said, I know it's a big-ass tall order to try and take inspiration from other people's accomplishments, especially people we probably haven't even heard of before. A lot of them, I would say. Maybe all of them I hadn't heard of before. That said, you know what? But hey, maybe we can just take some inspiration from as much, all right? Maybe me just putting the bug in your ear about it. Hey, it's getting me to start thinking about figuring out my passion. Like I said, if there's anything I hope you on your birthday, it's that you do as much, all right? That said, like I said, I butchered some names there, so let's make up for it on my side. I am just not a pedagogue. I don't have that gear to get my mouth wrapped around such words or reading in general. So, as you saw, that said, that essentially rounds out your birthday reading. Except to say your season is spring, your sign is Aries of the Aries I period specifically, and your quality and element is Cardinal Fire. Now, I know that probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of you, but you know what? There's some videos on the channel that help flesh out what all that means. If you're interested in looking, I'll leave a few of those links at the end of the video there if that works. You know, I put them up there. Sometimes maybe they don't work. That said, not altogether all too important, because what's important around here, wishing you a happy birthday. That's right. So this has been March 27th, the day of the Originator, from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up a copy, getting through it quicker than I can for you. Listen, if you're apt to have a group of folks over there, you want to get the party started off straight, all right? You want to get that ice broken, but you don't want to do the lion's share of the lifting, hey, pick yourself up the book. It's going to crack that ice, and doubly so, all right? Especially if you got them dual rulership days. I wore red just for you, the God of War like planet, all right? Okay, so in any event, book having been related, that's not altogether all too important, all right? But what is important, like I said again, wishing you a happy birthday, all right? I also put a personal message together for you birthday boys and girls, ladies and gents. It's right below the affiliate link there for the book, but I just want to relate that I want to thank you for the pleasure of your time. It's been a privilege to share your birthday with you. But for everybody else who joined us randomly or more ideally celebrate, hey, I hope you took something from this. You know, sometimes we can just think about the things we're hearing, you know, empathize with as much, imagine ourselves in the situation, hopefully learn something in the bargain, even though it's not our birthday. But that being said, I hope to see you for your birthday reading, all right? But before I take us out, I just want to mention, like I did at the top, your daily numbers. That's right. Now that you're out of jail, you know, you can get out there and do it for real. Let the universe show you it's with you on your path, all right? Let it do some of the driving and show you just the magic that's out there. If you see, taste, touch, smell, intuit, just a little bit of synchronicities and coincidences stacking up, all right? If there's anything I wish you on your birthday or just your day in general, it's that you get your hair blown back in those respects, all right? That said, for the birthday boys and girls, once again, happy birthday. And you know what? Take care of yourselves, all right? Don't be so self-neglectful if that applies, okay? You need to be tip-top so that you can apply yourself to the endeavor, all right? So keep struggling, keep honing your craft, and happy birthday. All right, take care.